Sounds good.
Hello, I'm Lois Letchford,
McCarty.
and we are talking about when learning is trauma. These are our trial runs for when our guests join us from 10 weeks from the 31st of August to the 2nd of November. I have now put out invitations on Facebook and I've set up an Eventbrite so people can register for the event.
Good. Sounds good. We're getting there.
Yeah, so we're hoping that Colleen Tralongo is going to join us today, but we're not sure. I've sent her an email and we'll see. She's from California, so she's about 3 hours ahead of us. And she has an interesting story and was very keen to talk to us. I know her son struggled with reading.
You're not live streaming, are you?
Yes, we are.
No, you're not.
Ah, why not?
Because you need to go live on YouTube first.
Oh, you need to go live on YouTube first. I've done the wrong thing, so I'll have to start again.
So we're not live?
We're not live. Am I live now?
Yes.
How does he know that?
Because
the brain's behind the operation. But what is he looking at? He can
1 minute,
see.
7 seconds we've been talking.
so technically you have been actually live.
Oh, we have been live. That's very good to know. Now I've got to click on me because I forget these things.
Yeah.
Yes. So Colleen was really keen to talk to us because she's been a mother in this situation and her son is now in college and doing okay, but I think there are still issues there.
Right. Now, how many kids does she have?
I think she has a girl and a boy. But yeah.
And just her son it was just her son that was struggling?
I couldn't be 100% sure of that. But she works in the Tech Valley outside of San Francisco. What do we call that? Silicon Valley. So she deals with the whole range of people, who are neurodiverse and knows lots of things. So I'm keen for her to join us and for her to share her knowledge. She wants to try this out to see how it works. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, Lisa, otherwise, there's an Eventbrite now for our When Learning is Trauma. So please click on it and register, and that will let us know how many people we can expect and make it easier for us.
Oh, that sounds good.
And connect. Yeah. So
your video stops every now and then. Is mine doing that?
Yeah, I think it might.
So my web connection, and I have all. So I wasn't sure if your video stopping has something to do with, or it's something on your end.
I can only talk. I don't deal with the technical.
Are the boys watching in the other room?
Yes, they are.
Can they see that that's happening, or am I the only?
I'll see if I can send them a message. No, I'll send the message and see what happens because then you've got to go back to message. He's coming now. Is there a problem, Isaac?
Yours blows up occasionally. Hers freezes. It's not any problem. It's the internet that she has. You cannot fix it unless you upgrade. It's simple as that.
Okay. We cannot fix anything unless we upgrade.
No. We're fine.
We're fine. We've upgraded our internet, but there's not a lot we can do.
Unless she can upgrade hers.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
So what it is what it is.
I just wanted to make sure to do anything. If it was just something that my computer's going in and out.
It's our internet connections.
Okay. All right.
So
anyway, what were we talking about? We were talking about Colleen. Then we were talking about the Eventbrite.
The Eventbrite, yes. So, we're just spreading the word, letting people know what's available and who's talking. And I have my list here of people, of our speakers. And I have been watching a number of them on their longer videos so we have an idea of what to talk about and get the best out of our guests, I think.
Yeah. Let me ask you, is Colleen's story to Ashley's? Do you know?
Well, Colleen's further along in the journey because her boy now, Colin, is in college, and he has written a children's book about his experiences as being dyslexic and growing up non-reading.
What's that called? I'm going to look that up, actually. If you have the name, I would be interested in that. But that just how long this has been going on. This has been a nightmare for people decades.
Well, she was the one that said to me, Lois, it's like being in a jungle because there are no road maps, there are no signposts, there's no, and your getting out of it is purely dependent on the people you happen to meet along the journey.
A luck to this.
A lot of luck to it. And it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
But it is.
Right. Trading when I was going through this to connect with other parents in my the same thing. And what I found was that a lot of parents didn't really know this was going on. They knew that their kids were having trouble, but they didn't know why. And the thoughts while driving, that silly thing I do on Facebook, because I was trying to bring awareness, reduce some of that luck of being able to find out. It shouldn't be a luck game. We should have the knowledge, people, and support them.
And I don't think when you say your child's not picking it up, generally you get the answers that placate you. Oh, that's not uncommon, or this or that or the other happens, But no one really has an awareness of how it affects the child.
Mm-hmm.
That the children cannot say, look, this is not good for me. The child doesn't have that language inside of them. And you're not aware of the depth of struggles that there are. I've got phone calls coming on. And you're not aware of the depth and how you get out of it. Everyone gives you the normal when our children are not fitting normal. So, and I think that's a problem. But you're right, it's all happened by chance.
Right, because I think I met with one of my sons. I knew that there was something wrong, and I brought it up to one of the teachers, brushed it off and said, oh, he's just a messy boy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And I thought, well, that's pretty messy. Like, I think there's something on here, but I had no idea what.
Yeah.
And no idea what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yes.
I think I can understand her jungle analogy. That's what.
Yes. Yeah.
And we touched on feeling like you're the only one trying to stand in a room full of teachers that are all saying something else. And some of the teachers just don't care. They're not living up to their potential. And other teachers are just saying, oh, don't worry. They're just messy, or they'll get it, or whatever. And it's none of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. That's a total lack of awareness across the board, isn't it? That of what has to be done, that the teaching is absolutely critical and they have to have more knowledge. But, I feel for teachers because a lot of the problems in the classroom, the whole time they're after is control. They want conformity and control. So,
yeah, but that's part of have the kids who are not able to keep up in the classroom, and oftentimes they're the kids chaos in the classroom. So with some knowledge of all of this for the teachers, how much better would it be for the teachers?
I can only nod. I can only nod.
I hear my son in the background yelling at my other son, trying to get him. It sounds like he's coming up with excuses. He doesn't want to go. So if you yelling, that's what's going on. It's not yelling, but he's sternly talking to him. He's giving, when you make a commitment speech,
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if we've heard back from Colleen yet, but I should have. I forgot. I should have sent her an email. So what we'll do is set up another time for next week. But you're busy on Monday and Tuesday, aren't you?
Right. So Monday and well, wait a second. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday I'm busy.
Yeah.
And so so Wednesday I think we were going to talk with Martin
We were going to try to. Martin can't change that. So
on Wednesday.
yeah, he can't change that. So I'll talk to him on Thursday.
So maybe Colleen wants to shoot for Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And then Wednesday next week is the only day that I have.
Sorry.
Then Thursday, Wednesday, the only day I have.
We're talking to Lenore on Wednesday morning. Tuesday night, aren't we? Is that right?
Let's see now. I thought we were talking to her time, 7 p.m. on Tuesday.
7. That's right. Yeah, Tuesday night our time.
Wednesday morning for her.
Yes, after your day of work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Okay. We'll talk to Colleen and see.
yeah. See
Well,
when
tomorrow.
look at
we
this.
have who's there?
It's Colleen, and I'm so sorry. I'm not turning my camera on. You don't want to see this.
Colleen, welcome. I'm glad you can join us. That's fine.
Yeah,
you don't have to see you.
I'm so sorry. I was on a call with a salesperson, and do I need to say more?
No, you don't.
Perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay. Yay. Hello, ladies.
Welcome, Colleen.
Hello.
Delighted
Thank
you
you.
can join us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Lisa was asking about your story. Fill us in on a little bit of the background again.
Oh my goodness. I have a business finance degree. I went and got an MBA and started out in corporate finance. Didn't really love it. Went into nonprofit, did 5 years of that, came out. People said, go to sales, go to recruiting, go somewhere with people. I did. Went to go take a company public. That was pre-bomb. Hired 250 people in 9 months and then laid myself off. So after that, I started a consulting practice and was intent on being home with my babies for maybe 3 years and then heading back out into the workforce. And lo and behold, I found out that I had one of them that had a problem called dyslexia. In preschool, the preschool director said, your kid is going to have a really hard time reading and he's going to have a super hard time in school. And I didn't even know what dyslexia was then. It took me 3 years and 3 IEPs to figure it out. And then going to a professional tester and then finding out, no, it wasn't mild, it was profound, which means nothing really works well for him. So there began our journey into the world of dyslexia, brain wiring, neurodiversity, education, advocacy, all of it. It's the same story of a lot of people. We kept calling in private schools, which were not equipped to teach him, but were equipped to protect him. He was protected from being bullied, which I feel to this day was a really important decision that we made. And, he spent a good deal of his time up until 7th grade going to tutoring 3 days a week.
After school.
After school. So the kid would go drag his ass to school. You know how it is in the classroom. It's not easy. Nobody knew what was going on. The teachers didn't get it. And I was getting ready to pull him out the summer of between 6th and 7th grade because he really wanted to try to go to a college prep high school, and he wasn't going to do it. And there was a resource specialist that came in that summer, and I in addition to that, had taken him to a professional educational therapist. And between the two of them, we had I call it the come to Jesus meeting, literally in the Catholic school. And we had the principal and the teachers, and little Colin led the whole damn meeting. And he was coached to do it and created an advocacy plan for himself, got everybody on board, educated him, rallied the troops, and it turned around.
Wow.
It was a miracle. And he ended up getting into, which like even after all the hard work in 7th and 8th grade, we still didn't know whether he was going to get into this high school, and he did. And, then began yet another 4 years of, fighting and advocating and, just working his tail off 3 times harder to, get through it. And so he graduated, I think he graduated with like a 3.2 or 3.3. And, he got into mid-tier colleges, and he's in Austin, Texas now, rising junior in business finance. And, right around the time that he got into Bellarmine, the 5,000 pounds that I was carrying lifted. I was advocating for all of those years. I was fighting. And that's when I went out and started my ed tech startup for a multitude of reasons. And, I've been in talent and HR for 18 years in Silicon Valley. So I have a really good lay of the land in regards to jobs, the dysfunction in hiring, and diversity and inclusion challenges. Really challenged in the area of neurodiversity, that's for sure. So that's kind of my story. Colin is, I think we're always, Colin wrote a book. He took him 4 years.
What's the name of it?
It's called I'm Just Different. And it's a children's book, and he started it his senior year in high school, and he started it with a graphic artist that was referred to us that was non-binary. So it was so funny to have both of them working together on that. And it just took, it just took a while because he went to college, and, we were scrappy and didn't know what we were doing. And anyways, it's out on Amazon. His goal is to raise enough money to send many books off to as many resource specialists as he can. And yeah, so he's been, I feel like he'll figure out his own career path, as he moves forward. He cares deeply about the social injustice of dyslexia. He understands it inherently because we've talked about it ad nauseum. And, I think he'll, in his own way, make an impact. I don't know how, but he gets real riled up about, he was lucky.
Yeah. He was lucky.
He was very, very lucky, and he gets very upset when, we talk about prison population and, the loss of really bright, amazing humans. That's like just criminal. It's just maddening. So that's my story.
That is fantastic, Colleen. You know what? I'm really pleased we're practicing these things. So we hope to have your picture next time when you're coming on, which is October 26th.
Okay.
Colleen, what I want you to think about is, what would you like to take parents to take away from your session? The importance of advocacy to avoid trauma in education. Think about the 3 things you want people to take away.
For every parent, it's different. For my son, I think one of the most important decisions we made was we gave him an extra year in kindergarten. That was a bloody difficult decision. I think that for him and for us, allowing him to choose whether he wanted to be in the closet or out was really important, because he learned early on that he was unique. He was just different. And, he was in a safe environment to do that. I don't know if I would have allowed him to do that in the public school. He was protected in that parochial school environment, but that self-advocacy starting at such a young age is critical. critical. So many parents live in fear.
Yeah.
That's just not how the Tralongos operated. And so I think that's a valid and important point to discuss and figure out whether that's, right for each family.
Yeah.
But for us, it has served Colin well. He knows how to fix problems now. He knows what the ADA is. He knows how to self-advocate. If somebody, isn't cooperating and he's not getting his accommodations, he knows how to resolve it.
That's huge.
That's awesome.
So
Huge.
yeah, so that's one of the things we're thinking about in these pre calls is, what are we really aiming to get across to the families and the parents when they listen to the series live?
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. But that's one big point is self-advocacy.
Self-advocacy, yes.
Yeah.
You've got to get them help.
Appropriate help.
Appropriate help for each individual child. So we found a woman here in Campbell who'd been a resource specialist, who's been in, the system, and she started her practice, and she used a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and she didn't go with one consistent program, but she tailored it to these kids, and that for Colin was good. He's still catching up. He is still catching up to this day in terms of lost content, they're surviving, right? So he, I'm proud to say, he's a young man that is a fiend with documentaries, and anytime he can listen to a book, he's I think he should be a lawyer. He has a very strong opinions, and working with the right tutor is important. I couldn't do it. I tried for a year. I ran him through Susan Barton, and it's not productive for a parent, for this parent.
Yeah.
For Lois, it was great. For Colin and I, it was too much,
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher.
Yeah.
But
also, Colleen, the situation I was in was really quite unusual. But if I had to work with Nicholas after school, it would have been a different story.
Yeah, I was getting Colin up at 6 a.m.
to work with him.
What else was I going to do it? I was my only choice, and it was poor little guy.
Yeah.
I just close my eyes and remember it, and we just knew we couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't fair for him, and he for 6 years he was telling his classmates were like, "Where are you going? Why aren't you doing this after school?" And he's having to navigate all of that. We tried to give him as normal a childhood as we could. He did Boy Scouts for many years with my husband. He tried sports. He's not the most coordinated kid out there, but that's okay. But we exposed him to a lot of things.
That's part of it, though, is coordination is a problem.
Oh yeah, he's not your. I think it's Michael Phelps who's dyslexic. The swimmer, the Olympian, like
Michael Phelps. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, Michael Phelps. Yeah, he's not Michael Phelps. Yeah. He's definitely not athletically gifted. So that's important. Is you need to have that. So you need to be a self-advocate, but you need to have a parent advocate. You do. You've got to have somebody who's a warrior.
Yeah, but families are tired, right? It's such a shame that you have to fight like this, especially if you're fighting by yourself.
I had no, I didn't know there were parent group, there's a really slippery slope with the whole parent group thing. So this is how I felt. We had chosen to mainstream him despite all odds. And every time I went to some of those parent groups, and I appreciate them and respect them, but I felt like I'm swimming in the pool of people who are all the same. And Colin didn't like it either. He wanted to be mainstreamed, even though it was super difficult. So as it is hard and it's not fair because I gave up my career trajectory for my son.
Yeah.
That's why I've been consulting for 18 years, and I would do it again.
Yes.
I did not trust anybody else with him.
Yes.
In regards to advocacy. I just didn't, so
yeah.
I did a LinkedIn post recently on dear working parents, COVID-19 for you, dyslexia for me.
Yes. Yeah. The interesting part about LinkedIn is I don't always see the posts. I haven't seen anything. So I've got to go and search for them.
So just look under my LinkedIn name and then you can see articles, but the analytics on LinkedIn are whack. If there's a madness, there's a way to figure it out, but I haven't had the energy to do that. So, I'm just posting. I'm just writing and I'm posting, and anybody that asks me about neurodiversity, I engage with. This is the first year I've had 3 actual candidates talk about the fact that they were dyslexic to me.
Wow.
In the interview.
Yeah.
And that's because we somehow wove ourselves to talk about, it's very easy for me to pick up on things.
Yeah.
So, autistic people are a lot easier because there's more visual things to pick up on. Dyslexics are a little harder, but I'm pretty good at picking up on things. So, I think for me, that was groundbreaking, is to have somebody trust in me enough to actually openly disclose. One of them went to Charles Armstrong, so I knew that was a pretty easy shot. And, but, through the network, I want to be seen as Switzerland. That's so self-advocacy, parent advocacy, and you really have to figure out how to navigate the educational system with accommodations, and I guess that falls under advocacy. But continuing to educate people is like it's a necessity, right? Like
the education system and going through it, like Ashley Roberts, you end up in this battle. No, never ending battle. I can't comprehend what she has been through. Lisa, what's your experience?
Well, as we're talking, I'm thinking about all these times that I've, fought for my son, and the times that we've shown up to fight for other kids. And I keep thinking about how important it is for, as Colleen was saying, to get the knowledge out there, because these teachers really need to know what they're dealing with this type of learner. Because one of the things I found was every year it would be a fresh batch of heck that we'd have to go through with the different teachers. And then as they got older, when they would switch semesters, it would be a new batch of teachers that I'd have to go through the same battle with. But then what I found was like some of the teachers, they almost looked at you as though you were making this up. And then you'd have to go through the whole thing and explain the whole thing and basically prove your case. But then what sometimes would happen is the kids didn't want to be seen as different. So some of these accommodations that everybody agreed on, the kids maybe didn't want to use and say, well, see, they're not cooperating, or they don't want to be different. So it's super hard for these kids to be in an environment where people don't understand them and they feel different. and they're not able to keep up with the work, and it is a nightmare. So, and I think it's really important for them to learn those self-advocacy skills. But as we talked about yesterday, what kid is going to raise his hand in the middle of his peers and and say, this is what I need? Because they might not know, and that's one thing that you want to teach them, but they're not going to make you feel comfortable doing that because nobody really knows what this is. So I think that goes back to Colleen's point. We've got to keep getting that information out there because it's a nightmare.
It's astounding to me that in this day and age, people don't know what this thing is.
Yeah.
I just, it's the NIMBY, right? It's not in my backyard, and therefore it's not applicable to me. And I too, can't tell you, like, it's heartbreaking as a parent to go to the back to school night and not see your kids' art on the wall.
Yeah. Well, in our experience, the special education department admitted that they didn't have a clue what dyslexia was. And I saw Lois's eyes get a little bit bigger, I think. Honest to God, I mean, can you imagine my surprise when we found this out? My jaw hit the floor, I'm sure. But what was even worse was they didn't see any need to know about this.
Yes.
I don't want to get myself in trouble, and I'm certainly not giving any names. I can, if anybody wants to privately talk about this someday. When my son graduates from high school, we can, for legal reasons. But they didn't know what it was. They didn't really care to know what it was. And then an entire year went by, and we showed up at another kid's IEP meeting, and the same person sitting across the table from me, it was special education department, I won't say which position, and still didn't know what dyslexia was. Had an entire year to delve into this. In the meantime, I was working with groups like Decoding Dyslexia and the PBIDA, but I had backed off from this legal battle with them. So I didn't want to, continue to try to educate them at this point. I figured I would do that through the back door. But when we showed up the next year at another kid's, as I mentioned, IEP meeting, they still didn't know what it was. I said, you've had a year to look this up, and we're having the same conversation over and over again. So, yeah, I have a lot more stories.
Stories and stories and stories and stories, and a lot of similar stories, but this is the problem. So there's a school here in Palo Alto. It's called Sandhill School. It's associated with the Children's Health Council, which is a very well-known Silicon Valley organization that helps families and children who are neurodiverse. And I met with the principal because I knew that Colin was going to do this book. And so I met with him. He was so kind. And we had a very frank conversation. And he had been working up and down the state of California at all these different schools and dealt with all these parents in the same type of situation. And I said, how do you think it is here in the Valley? Like, what's really going on? And he said, this place has more parents who live in fear every damn day of their kids being exposed. You want to talk about messing up your own kid's head?
Yeah.
Like you're living as like your kid has this horrible thing they're dealing with, and yet nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Which is why we've named this series When Learning is Trauma, because when these conditions come up, we are actually traumatizing our children, and it impacts the brain and it impacts their ability to learn. So the whole, there's a whole cycle going here. The children are not learning. No one knows about it. We're sweeping it under the carpet and telling the child there's something wrong with you or not wrong with you. And we're all, fish swimming around in a bowl wondering how to get out.
So what is the solution? I mean, to, stop the trauma from happening? Like,
Someone's trying to talk to me.
I would say continuing to do what we're doing with advocating and bringing awareness and things like what Lois has put together here to show parents and teachers, educators, whoever, this is what it looks like. And I think that there's a lot of groups that are coming up with some solutions too, but it really is going to require that everybody is on the same page to understand what this is. It's so frustrating to have the knowledge of all this, and then you go to the school and they look at you like you've made it up.
Yeah.
So I think things are starting to turn a little. I think things are getting a little bit better now that these groups are coming together and really making an effort to get the information out there. So we just have to keep doing that. I mean, it's frustrating and it's unreal that we've been going through this for decades, but that's just what we have to keep doing that. Like your son, writing that book, that's fantastic. I actually just looked that up while we were online here. So I'm gonna get that book and helping the kids understand what it is too. They don't know, the parents don't know, the educators don't know, the special educators don't know. But the more we get this information, to realize that it isn't some terrible thing that they have. It isn't, and people don't know what it is. So
I looked at it from a job standpoint.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids are freaking brilliant. Thank you. Can we talk about
I missed that actually.
They're brilliant. Not all of them.
They are.
A lot of them are crazy freaking smart. There's a lot of them here in Silicon Valley running VC firms, leading companies, doing their own businesses. They're creative in the way they think. Some of them are engineering. Some of them are in, PR and advertising. Some of them are in marketing. Some of them are like VPs of whatever, the way their brains are, the way they organize information, the way they think is amazing from an employment standpoint. And we're not talking about that. Yeah, they might need some accommodations. Yeah, oh my God, look at that kitty. But they're brilliant.
Yes.
And sometimes they're just flat out creative,
No, they're what they come up with is very different.
Yeah.
So from a building a company standpoint, I'm like, listen, dyslexics, they're the ones that could change the world. They can come up with these creative ideas. They can press the envelope in different ways of thinking. So from an employment standpoint, it's a lost hidden talent pool.
Yeah.
That goes back to my philosophy, and one that I think I'm going to have to say every week when we talk, and that comes from Kurt Dudley Marling, and it's learning problems dwell in activities and cultural practices and not in the heads of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to put the focus on the learning and how we are teaching rather than, the emphasis on what the child can do and can't do and the strengths and weaknesses, which drives me nuts. And the second thing is that instead of seeing these children as a problem, we need to see them as future rocket scientists because our language matters. And if we see them as future rocket scientists, we have a greater chance of teaching them.
So
that's my conclusion.
Yeah, I'm, what? Education sucks.
Yeah.
Right now, the way we're teaching the masses, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, we need to mix it up.
Yeah.
It's, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's not working.
No, it's not right for anybody.
Employment area. I'm speaking to you as somebody who hires people for a living.
Yeah.
And you can hire brilliant technical people, but they usually get fired because they don't have the EQ.
Yeah. Yes. 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 And that we have to teach as well. Well, look, our time is up. Colleen, we look forward to talking to you on the 26th of October.
Wonderful. How long will the interview be?
We're aiming for 30 minutes, but I suppose we can do 45 if we want to.
Okay.
But really to think about what points do we want to get across all the time, and then to repeat them and focus with them so that parents are not just listening to us question answer, but saying, this is what we want to take away.
Right.
Teach your children to advocate. And this is how I did it. Or, a few little pointers.
Got it.
So I'm glad you could join us today. It's wonderful.
Yes. Thank you for asking me to participate. I am very, very passionate about changing this dialogue. I'm just sick of it.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of your son's book?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, we have lots of
I would
copies.
hope, because maybe we could, show that, what that looks
Yes.
like, because I would be interested in other
Yes.
people knowing that those things are out there.
So it's basically the story of Billy and his journey from kindergarten through getting into college. It's just his little story. I mean, it's his truth, and it's very simple and meant to just help. There was no book like that.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
no book like that.
Excellent.
We didn't have anything.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
And have a copy for us on the day when you're talking, so that we can hold it up and people can see it, and we can
Sure.
promote it.
And yeah, I mean, you know what? The other thing I think that is super interesting is to actually get people to come out of the closet. People who've made it through the educational system.
Yeah.
People who can own their truth and
Yeah.
be okay with that. And I mean, that is another way to help change the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the moms, it's like they, have to own who they are too without being afraid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, I've got to go.
Lois, do your speech at the end. Practice your speech at the end.
Thank you. You're right. Thank you for joining us today. Colleen, thank you for being here. And we take away that, we want our children to advocate for our children. Forgot the other two things that I will talk about. And join us next week, and it'll be Dr. Alexander Passe.
oh, I love it.
And thank you. So you're right. We've got to practice our introduction and our conclusion, and thank you, and clicking on the right thing.
Yes, and then stop streaming.
Then stop streaming.
I'll keep the group together.
And I've got someone trying to talk to me on the other line.
All right,
Okay.
it was nice meeting you, Colleen.
Thank you, Colleen, and we'll be in touch.
All right, you take care,
Okay.
guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Lisa.
Goodbye.
Bye.